Why, hello there, girlfriends. How are we doing? We're like mid-October. We're feeling it, right? We're really into the Halloween spirit. And today, we're talking about a film that has been just as impactful as any big ol' witch in American film history. I know I'm kind of like getting off the tracks with this one, but I feel like you cannot not talk about Beetlejuice during Halloween. So we're gonna do that. Grab your popcorn, blame it on the juice, and let's talk about the 1988 flick, Beetlejuice. It's showtime! Hello everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Witchy Film Study. Today we're talking about the 1988 film by Tim Burton, Beetlejuice, and I must say, you guys, this look, I really turned it out. Now this is called Witchy Film Study, and today I'm doing something a little bit more, less witchy and just more so like menacing magical. This film is just as cool to me as some of the witchy films, so let's get right into it. As always, Witchy Film Study is broken down into some segments. It's episode 3, I'm kind of getting into the flow of things, you know? We're getting used to it. It's time for a little taste. The movie opens up quaintly with our plain Jane main protagonist couple. We've got Adam and Regina. Not Regina, her name is not Regina. We've got Adam and Barbara. Now, big-haired Barbara has some relative that is some kind of realtor and is really pushing them to sell this ginormous house because something along the lines of it's made for a family, and this kind of offends big-haired Barbara because we get the sense that they're maybe trying to start a family. We know that there's some guy in the city who has a family who would love to throw his money away into this house. Handsome Adam has a hobby of making miniature towns, and he's actually replicated this small town in like Connecticut or something. However, he needs a bush or something from the tree, so he asks if his lovely wife will go into town with him. She drives, it's very progressive, you know, the man doesn't always have to drive the car. On their way back home from this quaint little trip into town, there is a dog, and Barbara overreacts, right? She swerves, they go off of a bridge, it's very dramatic. However, they get home later that night, or so we think, and they don't remember how they got home, and things are kind of strange, and they realize, as there's a handbook called Handbook for the Recently Deceased sitting very nicely on a coffee table, and they realize they are freaking dead. Also, Adam steps off of the porch and steps into some kind of Mars-like desert with some strange cartoony creatures. Death is very strange. Now, I must say, this is quite unfair because where the heck is our handbook for the living? We're living through a pandemic, and this handbook for the recently deceased, it reads like a medical drug description, the fine print that you don't read. Cut to, there is a new family moving into this house. The house is sold. It's the rich guy from the city with the family, and we meet Charles and his lovely wife, Delia, who is a sculptress and is kind of ushering in all these construction mover guys, whatever, where to put her ugly sculptures. They also have a daughter, not together though. Charles's wife has died, we think, we imply. The musical tells us that. And Lydia Dietz looks nothing like what her family does. She's a little more, I don't think goth is the right term, but she's a little more edgy and dark and a little bit sad. Now, Delia and her interior designer are going through this very kind of dated interior of the home, talking about what they want to change the inside to be to make it a modern, very chic look. And the ghosts, Adam and Barbara, are actually not seen by the humans that have moved into the house, and they are pretty pissed about all this change happening and the fact that they are now trapped in their house, but their house really isn't theirs anymore. So they self-quarantine in the attic with Adam's little miniature sculptures. Now, in their time in the attic, they're trying to figure out what the heck they can do, and we see 2 ads from Beetlejuice, otherwise known as Beetlejuice. This is a sleazy salesman, essentially, on the television. He'll get rid of anyone living you don't want if you're dead, which is very, very handy for them, and what an opportune time to have something like this just come across your news feed. They didn't have that in the 80s, but I'm sure that Beetlejuice would come to any of us via Instagram ad nowadays. That is for certain. Let me know in the comments below if you've already seen it. They consult the book. The book is very dry and boring, but it does tell them how they can get to someone who can help. And they find themselves in the lobby of the afterlife. It's very mundane. We see multiple people who have died of certain various ways. But they meet their caseworker, and their caseworker basically says, you gotta scare the humans out of your house. And don't use the services of Beetlejuice, because Beetlejuice is actually this caseworker's ex-assistant, and was fired because is basically a sadistic pervert. With some bed sheets, they try their best. They don't scare the couple, but they do attract the attention of young Lydia Dietz, who can see them because she's messed up. They get frustrated, they end up summoning Beetlejuice, and they find out that he is literally just a pervert and they don't want his help. However, they've kind of like unlocked a conch shell that they can't quite put away, and he's living in the miniature that Adam has built. The couple is insistent that their house is theirs, so they stage a plan at a dinner party that the Dietz have. They poltergeist the entire dinner party, except Lydia, into doing the most iconic lip sync I think our lifetime has ever seen. Iconic! However, rich people love money. This doesn't scare them. This actually gives them a light bulb idea that they can turn the house into a tourist trap, and they end up wanting to meet the couple. However, things get so out of hand throughout the course of the movie. Beetlejuice comes, Beetlejuice gets a little too dangerous, out of control. There's a quick falling out with Lydia, and things get bad. There's a lot, twists and turns. It makes sense if you're on acid, I bet. Because they want this tourist dead idea thing to work, Charles Dietz actually tries to summon the old couple by using their old wedding uniforms that were in the closet. However, he is dumb, and using the handbook that has been found, he is actually performing an exorcism instead of a seance. Now, there's a very different thing, because when you're exorcising something, you're getting rid of the spirits or the evil demons. When you're seancing, you're just talking to them, vicariously through someone at a dinner party or whatnot. Lydia is freaking the F out, and so she summons Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice says that he'll help for a price. Now, this is all happening as they're, decaying into age, right? If young Lydia will marry him, allowing him to enter the human world and making all of our lives hell, he will stop and fix the whole, decaying thing. He does a quick costume change, he summons some kind of prime minister thing, and the wedding is about to take place. The movie wraps up in a rather unusual twist, very kooky, very Tim Burton, and for the most part, they all live kind of happily, weirdly ever after. It is no doubt that this movie is cemented in the Tim Burton Hall of Fame of his most classic, quintessential, weird movies, and this is pretty early on in his career. Alrighty, when you saw that I was going to be talking about Beetlejuice, I bet you thought she's gonna maybe talk about Michael Keaton. I thought maybe talking about Winona Ryder. She's got a look, she's very vampy, it's very Luna Muse. However, I cannot not talk about the best actress in this film. I remember Catherine O'Hara's performance in this film, though pretty minimal. I mean, she's not in a whole lot of it. The best part of this film. And honestly, the aesthetic of the Beetlejuice character was very fun and cool, obviously. But Delia Dietz is a star. So it's time for Eyes on the Actor. Remember, actor is a gender-neutral term. Now, before I did some research, I really thought that,
wow, this is the film that put Catherine O'Hara on the map.
I was sorely mistaken. Now, I do think that this was one of the bigger American films that she was a part of. However, Catherine O'Hara has a pretty impressive, well-rounded resume. She is a Canadian-American actress, comedian, and writer, and what was great news to me is that her entertainment roots actually started in a lot of stand-up comedy. Now, this absolutely makes sense for a lot of her more modern work, that's for sure. In the 70s, she worked for the Second City Improv Troupe in Canada, and then took to television to do a lot of voiceover. Fun fact, she was included in a TV animated special called Witch's Night Out, a little tiny witchy gem in this, punk rock, gross, grummy Witchy Film Study today. And you may not know, she was actually hired to replace one of the actresses on Saturday Night Live in 1981 when they were kind of reshuffling some of the show. However, she quit the show before ever even being on it. She was part of basically like Canada's version of Saturday Night Live. She made her feature film debut in 1980 in the film Double Negative alongside of a lot of her stand-up and comedian friends, including the one and only Eugene Levy. While working on the film Beetlejuice, she actually met her now husband, Bo Welch, who designed the sets for the movie. They are still, as of filming this very video, happily married with kids living in the States. But she does have dual citizenship, so whenever America really crumbles, Catherine O'Hara is safe. After the success of the 1988 film Beetlejuice, she went on to work with Tim Burton on a couple other things, one of which being the iconic Nightmare Before Christmas, as well as the more recent film, Frankenweenie. As I said, she's got quite the extensive resume, and she's in a lot of the more like classic films of the 80s and the 90s, including the Home Alone movies, Pippi Longstocking, and Waiting for Guffman. A lot of modern / younger audiences would probably recognize her from a series of unfortunate events, both the original movie and the Netflix series. She was in Chicken Little, in the 2019 animated film The Addams Family, which I don't believe did too well, and of course, Moira Rose in Schitt's Creek. Part of me wondered, did I just choose to do Catherine O'Hara because this look kind of looks like Moira Rose if she slept in her makeup? David. Someone put me off that log. It should have been you. David. Oh, Danny boy. Oh, that's enough. In an interview promoting Schitt's Creek, someone asked her if she would ever be a part of a sequel of Beetlejuice or if it's happening, and she said she would love to be a part of the show and she would love for her and her husband to actually return to production. However, she knows nothing about any such project. Alrighty, let's talk about the iconic impact. I thought that would be fierce. After the success of Pee-wee's Big Adventure, they kind of put Tim Burton in a cemented spot of like, this is a good director. The movie was allotted a budget of $15 million, which is a lot of freaking money. However, when you break it down, only $1 million was allotted for special effects. That included a lot of like the animation, the prosthetic pieces that they used, all that jazz. Tim Burton really liked this idea of having it vibe as one of the B-rated films that he liked to watch when he was a kid. I think he did that pretty successfully because it does have a kitschy, funny, tongue-in-cheek, very adult, immature joke kind of humor that is very fun. Doing some research for this because I'm a professional, reading some of the original concepts of Beetlejuice was a little disheartening, I guess. The original concepts were obviously much darker. Beetlejuice was a little more murderous. The concept seemed a little racially insensitive, I shall say. Originally, Sammy Davis Jr. was kind of pinned to be the character of Beetlejuice, using a lot of African-American vernacular English, and a lot of racial stereotypes, I guess, that they were trying to incorporate in the film. However, it went to Michael Keaton after someone pushed him, and Tim Burton liked his work. Now, I think Sammy Davis Jr. would have been a fine choice for Beetlejuice. I think we would have had a very, very different version of it. I am glad that they chose to keep him as, like, kind of like a gross, trailer, trashy, pervert, right? I think that's part of the allure of the film, is that he is so wrong it's right. I'm just glad that Beetlejuice can remain in iconic, spooky, kooky film history. Tim Burton was very quick to cast Winona Ryder. Catherine O'Hara signed very quickly after having the offer extended to her. But a lot of the cast actually took a bit of time to sign and get back to them because the concept on paper, I'm assuming, was just so wacky and maybe something that could probably tank a career if in the wrong hand, but eventually we got our cast and it is what it is today. I would say that Beetlejuice lives on as a landmark Halloween film, if anything, and for sure a stop down memory lane in the work of Tim Burton. Now, a lot of today's youth, maybe more so the theatrical youth, have become a lot more aware of Beetlejuice thanks to the new musical. In a very smart marketing move, Beetlejuice kind of pushed its way onto the TikTok app, inspiring a lot of cosplay people, a lot of young fans, a lot of young singers, and I think Beetlejuice now, as weird as it is, could be a lot of people's like Rent or Wicked being their introduction to musical theater, because it is such an interesting, whimsical time. The main themes throughout the musical is a conversation about death and how we deal with death and how we grieve, how we don't grieve, how we can laugh at it, how it can scare us, and something that I would never think watching this film. I think it's in the woodwork of the film itself, but the musical really, really focuses on how humans react and act to death. Unfortunately, the musical was shut down because Broadway has to have another 15th time of a star-studded cast of the Music Man revival. So Beetlejuice the musical was shoved into a limited run and shut down. And fate always has the last laugh because COVID-19 happened and Broadway is shut down indefinitely. I've talked about it the whole video, but let's talk about Luna's musing. This is the part where I talk about how this film, or someone in this film, has inspired me as a performer and as a drag queen specifically. I think a lot of alternative queens, this is something, you know, everyone has done Beetlejuice at some point in time. Beetlejuice is just something very easy that the edgier queens can pull out. To me, Beetlejuice is fun because it's the grossness of it all, right? I love the allure of witches and the feminine crudeness, the very unladylike mannerisms that are often attached with it. But this film, you know, departing from witches entirely, to me, just the aesthetic of Tim Burton is just so deliciously whimsical, something I love, and I've always loved it. Tim Burton is like Halloween all year round, and I think it's gorgeous. And oftentimes, on screen, very beautiful. To me, Michael Keaton's skeezy grossness was just as entertaining as Catherine O'Hara's very elegant put-togetherness. And they both were on some kind of scale of not quite all there. Now, I just love to share pictures from my past, and fun fact, this costume that I'm wearing is from high school. I really loved, like, turning looks in high school and going all out. And so I was determined to be Beetlejuice, and while touring colleges, I remember we stopped at so many frickin' Spirit Halloween party cities to try and find a Beetlejuice costume in my size. They're made out of frickin' tablecloths, but we could not find one, so we got an extra large, which I am very not extra large, and my mom did her best tailoring to make this suit and the pants be what I wanted it to be. I was like a bookmark as a kid. I still kinda am. But yeah, I remember feeling so fierce that I had to look so right walking through the halls of my high school senior year.
Yeah.
I was wearing the pants for a lot of drag looks for a long time, but now I can wear this jacket. That was a tangent. I do think that the iconic black and white stripes forever will be associated with Beetlejuice. Katy Perry on SNL, Beetlejuice. Robin Thicke and Miley Cyrus in that one time, Beetlejuice. Referees, Beetlejuice.
If I had known then what I know now, I wouldn't have had my little accident.
Well, there you have it. We chatted about Beetlejuice, one of my favorite Tim Burton films of all time. Anyways, if you also like this film as much as I do, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on all my social medias. I do have a Facebook page. Alrighty, well, that's all I got today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Look at this.
I'll edit lots of legs coming out of my head in post. Perfect. Now, I know when I said Beetlejuice, a lot of you thought I would dress up as Lydia, but gender is an illusion, especially when you're dead, so who cares? Thank you so much for watching another episode of Witchy Film Study with me, Luna Muse. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know many people have seen Beetlejuice. If you haven't, maybe give it a watch. Let me know what you think about the movie down below, because that's what influencers say nowadays. Thank you so much for watching. That's all I have for you this week. I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, keep it spooky. Bye!